our thoughts and prayers for the Holy Father there. This is absolutely incredible because only yesterday we were all watching the Holy Father. He didn't look in the, dying.
It's time to begin the hunt. To share the excitement and bake your tails off. M&M's for all fun.
I'm much better now that the ladies are back from space.
What were they up there, 10 minutes?
It's so cringy. Look at us, we're very wealthy. Don't we look great? Admire us.
Katy Perry jumped out of the aircraft and kissed the ground in a painfully cringe moment that has been roasted online.
While initially intended as dark satire, this episode feels eerily relevant today.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you are listening from across the world. I am your host, Mr. Freemo, and you are listening to the Mr. Freemason channel live stream. Hello, and welcome to you all. Today is the 21st of April, 2025. In today's live stream, we will be covering Katy Perry and just finishing off on some of the information that's come to light with regards to that. Easter and what the meaning of Easter is. The revelations of Pope Francis is passing today, and also a quick look at numerology with regards to the UK and why what is going on in the UK is. So firstly, I'd like to welcome you all. I will just give it a couple of minutes for people to join us, and we will get started with today's live stream. So I hope you're all doing very well. Hope you've had an enjoyable weekend. The weather's slightly very different today, should we say, compared to the last time we was on live stream. So, and as we said before in the last live stream, this week is obviously a celebration of religious purposes, including Passover, which is why I said to keep an eye out with regards to news, events, and catastrophes worldwide. So if you're new here, and if any of you have followed us over and migrated from the space at X last night, then there's a very interesting conversation with people in there. Hopefully a few of you have come across and joined us. So if you have, nice to have you here, and a new warm welcome to you. Just to break down and cover what we do here. Here we cover numerology astrology. So we take a look at crime, news, catastrophes, world events, birthdays, and why certain things happen on certain days and times. By all means, if you want to join us in the chat and bring up anything that numerology astrology can be applied to, then by all means, please join the community and participate in the live stream. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes, and then we will get started. As always, the numbers to look out for are the numbers 3, 6, 9, 11, 13, number 19, 22, 23, and lastly 33. With most articles that come up surrounding crime, we always tell you to look for the number 3. The third letter of the alphabet is C, and most crime events happen surrounding the number 3. As always, the number 3 will be relevant in today's live stream, and you'll see how that relates to things that are in the news currently, and numerology and numerology astrology. So just a quick update today of what's happened. So there was a passing of Pope Francis. There was also the visit by King Charles and Camilla recently to the Vatican. If you noticed on that visit, they were actually wearing black. The same as when the Queen passed and the news came out that the Queen passed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The news reporters were already wearing black for that day. So that should give you an inkling and a bit of a heads up that a lot of these things kind of happen, and then we're told afterwards Sometimes we're normally told on days and times that are relevant to them and correspond with numerology and astrology, because certain information or certain things happen under certain energies that coincide with vibration of that day and energy. So with all that being said, we will get straight on with the live show. So we'll take a quick look at the Katy Perry space launch and landing. Most of you who watch the channel, and I know many people out there, have seen a lot of viral videos going around surrounding the launch with Katy Perry and the female astronauts. The first thing that I will point out is there was a picture of one of the astronauts whose hand was shown at the window, and it was basically said to be a mannequin hand. Also, the tracksuit that they wore, the blue tracksuit, in the same picture that the hand was shown in the window, there's actually a black and white stripe that runs down the side of them leggings. Now, when you take a look at the picture of the female astronauts, there's no black and white line that runs down their outfit or leggings at all, which brings into question and doubt, were they the people that are actually in there, or were there mannequins in there? Also, their outfit was blue. This response correlates to Egyptian gods and goes back all the way back to Egyptian days. Many gods in Egyptian times were depicted as blue, and this is where the film Avatar comes from, which is why the characters are depicted as blue. So the spacesuits were blue with no lines. Egyptian gods, such as the film also Avatar, were also blue. Now, when you take a look at the shape of the rocket that Katy Perry left with the other female astronauts, it resembles the shape of a man's penis, should I say, for terms and conditions of YouTube, otherwise known as a phallus. The reason that this is quite important in symbolism and in Freemasonry is the phallus represents the phallus of Lucifer. Now, this phallus is symbolized around what they would call the four corners of the earth. And these are all states such as Washington, D.C., London, Jerusalem, and the other one is to do with... I'll come back to it in a minute. Sorry, the Vatican. There we go. So it's Washington, D.C., the Vatican, Jerusalem, and London. All four of these have what people would know as called the needle. It's not actually the needle at all. It's a representation of the missing phallus, which is from the original picture of Lucifer, which you will struggle to find on the internet these days. The picture that's now circulating on the internet is Lucifer. I don't even believe that he has the breasts of a female in the picture, because the picture of Lucifer depicted a transgender person with the head of a goat, the breasts of a female, and the genitals of a man, which were erect at the time, which is where the needle representation and the phallus. So you have the pointed building in Jerusalem, you have the pointed needle in London, you have the same one outside in Washington, D.C. The one in Washington, D.C. is represented by the water, as in the birth canal between the needle and the White House, which represents fertility. These four needles, like I've said, are what are referred to as the four corners or the four pillars of the earth. So they were all women astronauts as well, to do with fertility. Katy Perry also released a song back in the day called E.T. If you listen to them lyrics and go back and listen to them and see how they relate to the rocket launch, it's very interesting. Phallus worship, like I said, is very well known, especially majorly in the Western countries. As we'll move on, there'll be more references to this. So here's the picture of Lucifer that is probably the oldest picture that you could find. Like I said, it has the breasts of a female, the head of a goat. The phallus here has been removed and replaced with a pole with the two serpents. This logo might look familiar because it's actually applied to the medical profession. You'll find this logo on the sides of ambulances. And also it's to represent the DNA structure. So the two snakes either side represent the DNA structure. The line and the rod that runs through the middle is to represent your reptilian brain of the part of the DNA structure. There's an interesting fact to apply to your book of knowledge. So here are more references to phallus worship. You had the roof stone in England. Also, the barber's pole is actually a reference to male or men, or to the phallus as well. Washington, as I've just referred to, has got the monument. If you look around the world, you'll see many things that are symbolised with regards to phallus worship. And the reason that it is to do with phallus worship is to do with the missing phallus of Lucifer, which is why if you go and look anywhere that you can now on the internet, you will struggle to find a picture of Lucifer with the breast, but you certainly won't find the one of the phallus, if the one with the erect phallus. So that was the closest picture that I could find backdated. As we move on and digress. So with the shape of the rocket,
I'm much better now.
We also had the ridicule of Katy Perry and the female astronauts. People questioned how far they actually went up into the atmosphere because this journey was only 11 minutes long. There was then video footage that was released several days later, apparently showing them in outer space. It was a bit of an insult really to people who do go through training, as the female astronauts had no helmets, no harnesses, no breathing apparatus, and no seatbelts. And not to mention, obviously, the uniform that we've pointed out with the no lines and the fake plastic hand in the window. Any of these things you can go back and have a look on the internet for yourself. There's lots of information that's available, and you don't have to dig too far, to be honest with you, as it's quite current and relevant at the minute.
Now that the ladies are back from space.
What were they up there, 10 minutes?
It's so cringy. Look at us. We're very wealthy. Don't we look great? Admire us.
Katy Perry jumped out of the aircraft and kissed the ground in a painfully cringe moment that has been roasted online.
This is the moment that almost ruined it. The door is already open.
It's going to come out of her mouth, but really her heart. And is that?
Where are the re-entry burn marks? Why does it look like a fake hand? What do you guys think? Here's the moment that almost ruined it. The door is already open.
So, some of you might ask why there was all women astronauts, not only part of the ritual with regards to fertility. This also goes back to the Egyptian god Isis, who is the Egyptian god of fertility. And you'll see how this all coincides with why this was done at this kind of timing and around this kind of week, and also coincides with Easter. Now I'll let you in on a bit of hidden knowledge with regards to Easter. And this goes back to a live stream that I did before previously, where I touched on the English language and spelling, which is why I said that the English language you will find on every signpost around the world. It's the universal language. It's also the universal language that's applied to numbers. So Easter actually comes from the word East Star, as in Eastern Star, which is why you had all female astronauts. Now, the Eastern Star is a fraternity and a branch of Freemasonry, although no Freemason or any Mason will acknowledge the female fraternity of the Eastern Star as Freemasons. They acknowledge them but don't accept them. That's the kind of way that I describe it. So they're aware and acknowledge that they exist, but they don't accept that they're part of Freemasonry. So members of the Eastern Star are also known as OES, which stands for the Order of the Eastern Star. And in that fraternity, there has to be one male master Mason, and there also has to be a master female leader, who would you probably class as a witch. As the Order of the Eastern Star is kind of associated and surrounded by spells, rituals. It's more, I would say, the feminine and softer side of Freemasonry. So, whereas the male side would be kind of carrying out such sacrifices or rituals, the female side of the fraternity is more about carrying out spells, fulfilling rituals and agendas. So we had Oprah Winfrey, who was also at that launch, and you also had Jeff Bezos, whose rocket it actually was. Now, we know that you don't get past the $20 million club unless you join these people. And we know that both these people, Jeff Bezos and Oprah Winfrey, are well past that category of $20 million. These are billionaires. So if you used to assess this situation, I would say that the members of the Eastern Star were the 6 female astronauts on that space rocket. Oprah Winfrey was the Master Mason Witch, and Jeff Bezos would be the Master Mason. Obviously, it's for entertainment purposes and educational purposes, and this is all completely alleged, but make of it what you will. So here's just a bit of information and background surrounding who the Eastern Star and OES are.
This is the Eastern Star display, right?
It is the Order of the Eastern Star.
The Order of the Eastern Star.
What sometimes we refer to as OES.
Okay.
So what do you want to know?
I have heard before that this is a concordant body of Freemasonry that allows women in it. Is that true?
That is true.
All right.
I tell you what, it's actually a mixed gender organization.
Okay.
You're right to call it a concordant body. We have things called appendant bodies. A lot of people refer to the Order of the Eastern Star as an appendant body. Technically, it's a concordant body.
Okay.
So really what it is, it's mixed gender, but it was kind of designed for the ladies.
Okay.
And
but it's not only women.
Nope, it's women and men. You have to have Master Masons within the membership in order to kind of make it part of the Masonic family.
Okay.
And really what it was formed by Brother Rob Morris back in 1850, let's say. He came up with the symbol, the ritual, and a number of different things. And what he wanted to do was create an organization where the women in Masons' lives could enjoy some of that character building that the rituals would do.
This is the Eastern Star display, right?
It is the Order of the Eastern Star.
So that was just a bit of background of who the Eastern Star or Order of the Eastern Star are. Now, that's just one breakdown or one perception that you're given of these friendly members. Like many of these fraternities and organisations, there's yin and yang, light and dark, black and white checkered floorboard. There's two sides to every coin. So on the other side of witches of the Eastern Star or members of the Eastern Star, here's a different perspective.
I wanted to show those clips so like I said, we can see the fruit of Freemasonry, and that way when we look at the fruit of OES, it'll make so much sense. So who is Eastern Star? The Order of the Eastern Star has a tangled history. Originally conceived as an American form of adoptive masonry as early as the 1840s, it took until 1876 for the General Grand Chapter Order of the Eastern Star to be formed. And there are at least 2 separate organizations that both say that they are dedicated to the unification of all Eastern Stars, but which lead a separate existence from the General Grand Chapter and were founded in 1947 and 1962, respectively. There's also an African American organization dating from the days when American Masons officially barred blacks from membership. The General Grand Chapter of the Order of the Eastern Star was founded in 1876. It currently exists worldwide in association, where appropriate, with the Supreme Grand Council Chapter of Scotland. It is open to master masons in good standing and their female relatives over the age of 18 years. There were 2,087,063 members in 1994. Robert Morris, which was a master mason, school teacher, and poet, first attempted in the 1840s to establish adoptive Freemasonry in the United States using a ritual of his own devising. At first, reviled by fellow Masons for betraying Masonic secrets, he nevertheless persisted and throughout the 1850s conferred various degrees on female relatives of master Masons with varying levels of cooperation from other master Masons. His families of the Eastern Star dated from 1857. Real acceptance was slow in coming, and it was not until Morris's rituals were revised by the Masonic publisher Robert McCoy in 1866 that any greater success came. McCoy added the degrees of the Queen of the South, past matron's degree, and the amaranth degree. I pray that's how you say it. It says, even then, it was 10 years before the Central Grand Chapter was organized, and the Grand Lodge of England still does not admit that the Eastern Star has anything to do with Freemasonry. Indeed, the United Grand Lodge of England has in the past threatened with expulsion any Master Mason who receives any OES degree or serves as worthy patron. Wow. It says the order as now constituted works 5 degrees based on the story of 5 women in the Bible, an example of the way in which organizations adhering to deism have become progressively more Christian in the United States, especially where women are involved. The slogan of the order is, "We have seen his star in the east and we are come to worship him." The order even awards scholarships to those involved in religious training. The ritual also illustrates powerful patriarchal values, and of course the degrees must be conferred by a male master mason. The degrees are the daughter degree, which is obedience, symbolized by Adia, daughter of Japheth. The second one is the widow degree, which is devotion to religious values, symbolized by Ruth. There's also the wife degree, which is fidelity, exemplified by Esther. There's the sister degree, which is faith in the Redeemer, symbolized by Martha, sister of Lazarus. And then there's the mother degree, which is charity, symbolized by Electa, identified as the elect lady in the second epistle of St. John. And it says, according to the Eastern Star ritual, when a lady claims to have taken these degrees and has given one or more of the signs, a master may examine her in the following manner.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit more information on what the Eastern Star or the OES is. So Easter was yesterday on Sunday. This was the 20th of April. This would have actually been an 11-day in numerology because the 2nd is the only 2-numbered day in the whole of the month. So the 20th of every month is broken down into 2 ones, which gives us 11. Now, also on this day, which would have been the 11th day, which is the 20th, you had King Charles. The 11th letter of the alphabet is K, and King starts with K. There was also the celebration of King Charles and Camilla's wedding anniversary. This was also 20 years yesterday on the 20th of April. The 20th letter of the alphabet is also T, and Ukraine spoke of a truce yesterday. And we also spoke about it being Easter and the Eastern Star of the goddess Isis, fertility, which you will see more of in a minute, of a statue, and how the eggs come into Easter. Many different fraternities of Freemasonry, not just the Witches of the Eastern Star, worship the East Star, so to speak. This is why you'll find many groups, even pop bands, which is why East 17 was named East 17, although they tell you it is because of East Walthamstow. It was also a homage towards the Eastern Star. So there's many references out there. Once you kind of know this, you can then kind of apply it to it, which is obviously where the breakdown of E Star and E Star comes from. So this is the goddess Isis, the goddess of fertility in ancient Egyptian gods. And as you can see, she was surrounded by eggs, which is where Easter comes from and why eggs are used. There's also more phallus worship of the maypole. It's another thing of symbolism. So we'll move on and turn our attention to today, which is the 21st of April. 2 and 1 gives us the number 3. And today Pope Francis passed away. The time that was given that he passed away, I believe, was 7:35 a.m. Yeah, if you do that in numerology, it comes to also gives you a number. So it gives you a 16, but it's 1 and 6 equals 7, so it gives you a number 7, which is the number of the genius. We'll take a quick look at Pope Francis just with regards to his birthday, and also how the number 3 comes up quite consistently. So he was born on the 17th, 1936. 1 and 7 equals 8, the number of money. And people born on the day of 8 normally come from no money or poverty, then come into money, but also at the same time it can go round in a vicious cycle, which is why the number 8 is continuous and infinite, which is why you can go from being poor to rich and then going back from rich back to poor. Many people have come from no money to riches, as I've said before, people such as Kanye West. So his life path as well, Pope Francis, his birthday added all together gives you a life path number of 12, and 1 and 2 equals a number 3. So his life path number was a number 3, and he also passed on a day of number 3. He also passed at the age of 88. Like I've just said, in numerology, 8 is the number of money. So you can expect off the back of the passing of Pope Francis there to be lots of money coming into the church off the back of this. So if we turn our attention to the number 3 and how that applies today, with it being the 21st, the third letter of the alphabet is C. C stands for the criminal, but it also stands with and relates to the Pope today. So many statements that were given about the characteristics and traits of the Pope. One person stated that he was counterculture, so he was a counterism against the norm of what they expected a Pope to be. He was the first Jesuit Pope. There's actually 3 popes. Not many people know this. So there's the White Pope, the Red Pope, and the Black Pope. The White Pope is the Jesuit Pope. The Red Pope is the Pope of Freemasonry, I believe. And it's the colour red because it relates to the Rothschilds, which in translation is a translation of Red Shield. The third Pope is the Black Pope, who is the head of the Orsini family, who's the top of the bloodline and the tree and the pyramid of the 13 bloodline families that date all the way back to allegedly Mary Magdalene, and also back to the ancient Egyptian gods, sometimes called the Nephilim. So that is why obviously you can see where the colour blue comes into it, also Osiris, and obviously where the popes all come into it as well. So the third letter of the alphabet, like I said, is C. So he was counted as being counterculture. He was from a church. C also stands for cathedral. C also stands for cardinal. C also stands for Catholic. C also stands for caring. He was also described as courageous, which begins with C. And then on the other side of the coin, on the dark side, you have C represents crime, which begins with C. Corruption begins with C. Charges begin with C. And as we know from a past history of these people, their involvement in crimes, children also begins with C. When I looked at the place of where this was reported, it was reported the Vatican, and I was kind of wondering where that would tie in with regards to numerology and letters. But I actually described it as Vatican City, and city begins with C as well. Tomorrow is the 22nd. The 22nd letter of the alphabet is actually V, so expect a lot of news surrounding the Vatican tomorrow to come out. 22 is also the builder number, master number, so many words will come out with double B meanings. So they spoke of Pope Francis, and he had bronchitis pneumonia, I believe, so he would have had bad breathing. That would have been BB. You had the Vatican, the phallus representation of the needle that sits outside. The angle they showed you from it was from the front, but when you look at it from the other side, it's actually a pentagram that's upside down, which is exactly the same representation of the same direction as the Eastern Star, so which is an inverted pentagram. So that just happens to sit outside of where the Vatican is. So yeah, that's kind of how it all relates with that and numerology. There's even a couple of 33s in there, so Catholic Church both begin with C each, so there's your 33 in that news article. Pope didn't die in any kind of enemy year, so his passing would have been a natural one, although judging by the pictures that we were shown of recent compared to the ones a few months ago, and the news that he was ill, I actually half thought that he'd actually passed the other week, which would explain why King Charles and Camilla both went there, whose both their names begin with C as well. Went there dressed in black, because I believe they actually went there for the ceremony, or private ceremony, before the public one. But you can speculate on that one yourselves. So we'll take a look at what the news said and what their analysis was of Pope Francis and the passing, considering this was Easter Sunday yesterday, and he managed to survive right to the very last minute just to give his speech, only then just to coincidentally pass the following morning. But I'll let you make your minds up of that one.
Thoughts and prayers for the Holy Father there. This is absolutely incredible, because only yesterday we were all watching the Holy Father. He didn't look in the, dying.
So as always, normally when something like this happens, you had the helicopter accident that happened with the plane in Washington, DC, back in February, towards the beginning of March. That was a prediction in The Simpsons to do with that. There was also the prediction with Liam Payne falling out the balcony window at a hotel. And also there was a prediction with regards to the Pope and his ill health.
Papal Prophecy. In the episode Papal Prophecy, The Simpsons boldly ventured into a storyline involving the declining health and eventual passing of a beloved pope. The narrative portrays a frail pontiff struggling with illness before succumbing, triggering a global spiritual crisis. While initially intended as dark satire, this episode feels eerily relevant today in light of Pope Francis's current health struggles. Reports of his hospitalization, pneumonia diagnosis, and slow recovery have sparked significant concern worldwide, mirroring the somber tones of the episode. In Papal Prophecy, the show also explores the aftermath of such a loss, depicting the Vatican in chaos and millions of people mourning the passing of a spiritual leader. The episode underscores how the death of a pope could destabilize the Catholic Church, leaving a leadership vacuum and unsettling millions of followers. The storyline, though exaggerated for comedic effect, raises thought-provoking questions about the fragility of institutions and the impact of losing a global figurehead. Today, with Pope Francis resting in a hospital wing and the Vatican providing sparse updates, the parallels between reality and The Simpsons' fictional narrative are striking.
Pope Francis has now spent an entire week in Rome's Gemelli Hospital receiving treatment for double pneumonia.
The prediction serves as a chilling reminder of the show's uncanny ability to reflect real-world anxieties, leaving fans wondering if the writers of The Simpsons somehow foresaw this moment in history. Whether coincidence or calculated satire, Papal Prophecy adds another layer to the show's reputation for eerily accurate predictions.
So, there was a prediction already by The Simpsons. Just seems to be that the predictions by The Simpsons seem to ring true every single time. Also, going back to Katy Perry and the rocket launch, sometimes when things happen like this and people have an instinct or a feeling that something doesn't quite add up, sometimes it might take a few days to even a couple of weeks before people start to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together, and what actually transpires or what was going on behind the scenes then kind of comes to light. It's not always known at first, because people are normally baffled by the event and what's going on, and you're normally bamboozled with so much information so quickly, it's actually quite hard to digest and actually spot anything else at the time. So, yeah, with regards to the Pope, it'll be very interesting to kind of see what happens after that. I'll just turn to some of the comments in the comment section quickly. Anna, who's joined us, asked, was he bumped off? No, going by numerology and it not being in his enemy year, he was actually born in the animal sign of the rat. It'd be interesting actually to see and do some information and background check on Argentina, which is where he came from, and see what year Argentina was founded. Because if it was founded in a rat year and he was born in a rat year, it would explain why he did so well to come out of somewhere like that. So that would explain a lot. So no, I don't think he was bumped off in that sense. What I do think though is that they've drawn it out, and they've drawn it out to get Easter out the way, which is kind of a little bit the same kind of thing that happened with the Queen. If you remember, there was the Queen's Jubilee. And then once the Jubilee was out the way, it was literally a month after that, a month and a half, and yeah, the Queen passed. But if you go back and look on the news articles of that day, you'll see all the news reporters were actually wearing black before the news of the Queen's passing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So unless they were very, very lucky to wear black that day, she'd actually passed already, I believe a few days before. But what they will do is leave it a couple of days to organise things and put things in place before they tell the public, or they will wait till certain days like this to do things or announce information where the number 3 is so prevalent and the letter C revolves around everything from the Catholic Church to cardinals to cathedrals and so on. Which kind of brings us on to the UK and numerology. So with some of the scenes that have been seen in the UK over the past, well, since the beginning of the year, really, such as crime going through the roof, the state of the economy, the state of society, and other kind of things changing, so to speak, in the year of the snake, where I've said before, the year of the snake is about it shredding its skin and starting afresh. So this year is actually the year of the snake, and the enemy sign of the snake is the year of the pig. When I looked into the UK, England itself was founded as a country in 927 AD. The United Kingdom was actually founded in 1707. And as I said before, even with the Russell Brand date of birth, where they gave 2 different dates of birth, and in numerology you can't escape. So the UK was founded in 1707 and England was founded in 927 AD. They're both in a pig year. So the reason that the UK is facing the issues that it's having this year, and the serious crime rates, and also the other things that are going on with regards to migration and other topics and cost of living, the reason that the UK is suffering so badly this year is because, one, it is a snake year of shredding its skin, and also the UK and England were founded in its enemy sign of the pig. So, like I always say, numerology astrology never fails. So, has anybody got any questions in chat at all? Thank you very much for people who've joined us this evening. Yeah, you're right, Wiz. I think you did as well. The fact that so many celebrities or news reporters have stated that he didn't look that ill. You've even heard yourself what Eamon Holmes said. Okay, he might have looked poorly, but he wasn't knocking on death's door. He actually came out of hospital towards the end of last week, I believe. So he's gone from being ill to going in hospital to coming out to doing a speech on a Sunday to less than 24 hours later, he's gone. It will be interesting to see what kind of happens off the back of this, whether this will kind of be the doorway and the opening for Agenda 2030, which is the one world government, the one world law, the one world currency, the one world religion. I suppose only time will tell. So for you and the people out there who have not bought the book yet, if you'd like to go and grab yourself a copy of all the stuff that we cover on the channel here, Breaking the Matrix, Numerology Astrology is available on Amazon if you want to grab yourself a copy. Also try to get another live in at some point this week, depending on what happens or if any other things come up. Hopefully Easter's been a bit more explained to you of what Easter's actually about. Also the female astronauts and the Eastern Star. Also numerology astrology and how it applies to the Pope and his passing. And also what the representation of the rocket, the needle and the missing phallus represents around different states. The other way, and inkling and kind of heads up, and they tell you in plain sight that these cities that I've mentioned, the 4 cities such as the Vatican, Jerusalem, London and Washington DC, are actually their own independent states from them countries, which is why they have their own police force. That's why you have called a Secretary of State. That is why now the Pope will, for 9 days now, be lying in state. So it just shows you the words that they teach you and tell you don't always mean what you think they might. And on that note, you've been an absolute awesome audience. I've been Mr. Fremo. You've been brilliant. Until next time, I'm out of here.